Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we're speaking with an online fitness coach who has her bachelor's degree in exercise and sports science, which serves her in supporting clients to build confidence and achieve results in a sustainable way. She is a former collegiate volleyball player who quit to pursue bodybuilding after falling in love with the lifestyle. She competed in her first show in 2020 as a figure competitor, received fourth place at that show, then went on to compete in the bikini division 4 weeks later, where she got first in her class, qualified for nationals, and then placed third at her first national show before going on to win her pro card at USA's with a first place win. So she just kicked off her prep for a pro debut in 2023. I'm excited to dig into her process, her mindset, and everything else, as you guys know. So welcome to the show, Kayla Ashworth. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first time on a podcast, so I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you too. I watched your interview with someone on your YouTube. It was like a workout podcast, which was pretty cool. It was like a workout interview. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, was it with Eric Ogle?
Yes.
Yeah. That was fun. Those mic'd up videos are definitely a good time.
Yeah, it was cool. Now, before we get into everything, do you have a ritual or something you do or think about before your heel hits the stage?
Honestly, no. And it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny you say that because I've only been on stage, 3 times. And so there's really nothing, there's really nothing super special that I do besides try to shake out the nerves and just lock in and go out there and do my thing. But posing has definitely been one thing that has held me back from doing my pro debut despite everything else, just because I want to go up there and look like I've been a ballerina my whole life and not a deer coming out of the womb. That's a good way to explain it. But posing has definitely been a struggle for me. So that's probably the one thing going into this pro debut that I want to nail just more than anything, really.
Got it. Now, did you initially want to do a pro debut right after your last show, but it was the posing that held you back, or was it an improvement season already in mind?
No, it was improvement season already. I think that was 16 weeks into my cut, because I did 2 national shows back to back, and I knew I had so much growing to do, so there was really no point in me going into a pro debut. I've never had like a true off season with a goal in mind while I've been bodybuilding. So for me, it was just super important to get my mind right and make the growth that I need to make before stepping on that pro stage, because I want my pro debut to be something to remember, just a physique that I'm proud of and I know is going to do well. So for me, going on stage knowing, it wasn't my best presentation seemed a little pointless to me.
Definitely. Yeah, like you really want to bring your best. So how are you feeling about making your pro debut into the new year? Like what it is in 2023, I'm assuming.
Yes. So right now I'm 2 weeks into my gut diet, which is, I know we can get into that later. That's like a whole separate issue. But I think a lot of people think this is my prep, but I'm doing this diet for 12 weeks. I'm going to reverse out of it for probably 4 to 6. And then after that, I'm probably going to sit at maintenance, see where my physique's at, see where my muscle mass is at. And then from there, when I feel like my hormones are re-regulated and my body's just in a good place, then I can start my pro debut prep. So around January is going to be the end of this whole protocol I'm doing now. So I'm definitely starting the new year out as a fresh body, but I don't know how long. Like I said, I'm going to have to sit at that maintenance point before I start a prep.
And what would be the purpose of doing that?
Just so I'm not done. You mean instead of just going straight into a prep?
Yeah, like what's the purpose of having a maintenance phase after you reverse out of your SIBO or SIBO gut protocol?
Yeah, so I'll be dieting for 16 weeks. And I'm actually, the calories I'm on right now are significantly lower than my prep calories or prep macros. So I start prep usually at 240, 200 carb, and I dropped right to 150 carb right now. So I'm really going
Wow.
through it. My body's taking a hit. So for me to diet for 16 weeks and then jump in and diet again, I'm just going to look extremely flat. My body's going to be depleted. I'm going to be exhausted. I really just want to put as much, basically get my hormones in check more than anything, because by the end of this, I don't know how I'm going to feel. This is also my first time in 6 years getting off birth control, which is also very nerve-wracking because that has completely cleared up my symptoms regarding my cycle. However, I know with oral birth control, there are a lot of side effects that can happen in the gut, which I was unaware of until I started working with my coach. And that's kind of why we're getting off of it, to get that out of my system. But yeah, just sitting at maintenance, and also for the mental side of things. I mean, dieting for 16 weeks plus another 12 weeks. And then honestly, I want to do multiple pro shows. So that's just a very, very, very long time in a deficit. And I really want to be in a good mindset, in a good place, physically and mentally, just to start my pro debut prep.
Love that. Like you really want to have a season. You don't want to basically burn out from doing the gut protocol and then a prep right after.
Yeah, 100%.
And when did you realize you had issues with your gut, and like what were some of those signs you maybe could have seen or started to see that gave you the inkling that something was wrong?
Well, I'll give you a long story short, because it is a pretty lengthy story. It started, honestly, I can remember when I was in third, fourth grade, I would have to like lay on the floor and read my books on my stomach because my stomach hurt so bad. Now, I don't know if those issues were related to anything now, but I know I've always had just stomach pain kind of throughout my life. Digestion has always been normal, which is also very weird. So even though I bloat and I have the pain, my digestion has always, like I said, been very normal. So it's almost like the two are not connected. My stomach aches kind of stopped throughout high school and college though, but I was also at a much higher body fat percentage than I am now. So I could have been bloating and just not noticed it as much, but I definitely know it was not as bad as it is now. And I remember this last prep, there was one day and I had oatmeal, like plain oatmeal and egg whites, and which I have every single day. I've had for years. And I started getting distended. And literally from that day forward, it was every single day. It was almost like it came out of nowhere. It was the weirdest thing ever. And all throughout prep, my food was clean. I would go to bed completely distended, sometimes have such bad heartburn, like I would have to go on walks through the neighborhood, like 9 months pregnant looking belly. Like it was crazy, but I would always wake up super flat, and on show day, peak week, never an issue. So it was the weirdest thing. And then as I reversed out of my prep, I began to notice more and more like, okay, I'm bloating no matter what. Like it does not matter what I eat. It doesn't matter what I do. Every day I'm bloating. I eat too late, I'm bloated. I don't eat enough, I'm bloated. I eat too much, I'm bloated. Like it didn't matter what it was. So that was driving me crazy. I ended up getting an endoscopy and a colonoscopy, and what else did I get? I reached out to a functional medicine coach on Instagram, Lacey Dunn, if any of y'all are familiar with her. And then that's where I got my GI map done. So basically when that came back, I'd never gotten one of those done, which I don't know why, but I highly recommend them. Basically you send in your stool and they give you all the ins and outs of your gut. But I got that back, and it kind of broke down everything and just told me basically from head to toe, I've just got a whole bunch of bacteria built up in me. There are multiple things wrong. So after that is kind of when I decided, like, we got to figure out what exactly it is and take action. So I decided to reach out to a different coach, actually, who I was recommended by a friend of mine. And he looked at it and had me go get tested for SIBO. And I did have methane dominant SIBO, which SIBO is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. So basically the bacteria in my gut is built up with, if you want to just say, bad bacteria. And when I eat, no matter what I eat, it feeds off that food and basically produces gases. And mine is methane dominant. So produces methane gas, which is causing the bloat, mostly carbohydrates and certain types of sugars like fructose and stuff. So that being said, I did try antibiotics. It's very commonly used to treat this, and that did absolutely nothing. I did the elimination diet. I did multiple different things, and it's really just come down to a point where I'm having to go on this full-blown SIBO protocol, is what they call it, where basically it's very, very low calorie, low carb, because you don't want that bacteria feeding off that food. And then on top of that, you're inputting a lot of antimicrobials, which are just basically natural supplements that are going to go in and break down the gut microbiome and kill everything off. So once we do that for 10 to 12 weeks, the kill phase, then I'll implement more food slowly, rebuild up that good bacteria, and then hopefully by the end of it, I will be a new person. So sorry, that was a very long explanation, but
no,
it's
that
kind
was
of hard.
so insightful. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
How are you feeling about having to do all of this?
I was terrified because my off season, I was eating 3,200 calories. Like, I was at 450 carbs. I'm very much a big foodie. And that's another reason I did not do a pro debut this year, is after my prep last year, like, I just needed a break mentally. Like, I was not in the mindset to diet. And I pushed this protocol off as long as I could until, trying to make it through summer at least, so I could enjoy a full year off season and then also enjoy my vacations and all that. So I was very, very nervous to go from 3,200 calories to 1,800 calories. It was at 1,500, and then I convinced him to bump it to 1,800 because I was like, just give me something. But also not being able to have artificials. So I quite literally can't have anything because honestly, everything has artificials in it. So that's also been very, very tough, as well as keeping my caffeine to a maximum of 100 milligrams. That's been rough for me too. But I think now that I'm on it, I'm honestly shocked at how well I'm handling it, because I am on a meal plan to where on my preps, I usually do macros. And I think having more freedom and variety makes my mind wander and makes me want to go venture off and try to create new things rather than just sticking to the basics. But I think because I'm literally allowed, 10 ingredients on this whole diet, that I know I don't have options. And I also know I'm healing my gut. And so every time, I want to go off track, you can't. So if I were to eat a cookie right now, essentially it would kind of destroy the whole protocol. Like, it would kind of ruin my past 2 weeks of progress. So I know I can't cheat. I know it's not an option. So it's really kind of been an out of sight, out of mind thing, which has been great. And thank goodness I now work from home, to where last year I was an in-person trainer. So I do have the luxury of being able to keep my NEAT very, very low, my output very, very low, and try not to lose any weight. Because that was also my biggest fears. I was like, I just went through this 13-month off season to put on all this mass, and now I'm about to lose who knows how many pounds, because I was on these calories on prep, around this, and I got down to 8% body fat. So I was like, I do not want to lose weight right now. Like, that is not my goal. So far it's been actually very good, and the bloating is still there, but I know it's going to take a while. So just trusting the process at this point and taking it day by day.
What I love about what you just shared is like your intentions behind doing it are supporting you in the execution. Like it's more important to you to get to the place where you're feeling good and your gut is healed than it is to have a bit more flexibility. And I think that speaks to just in general when setting goals for nutrition. Like if we can connect to a deeper why or a reason for doing it, it's easier to follow through. And I also like how you were so considerate of your body and your physique goals at the same time. You said you didn't want to lose weight or you don't want to lose weight. So what have you adjusted with your training or maybe your cardio or NEAT, so to speak, that has helped you to avoid doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, my training has had to go down because the goal is to keep stress very low. Every time I train, I blow up, meaning my gut just goes crazy. I'm distended by the end of my workout, and it will last until the next day. So that has played a huge role in my social life because, like Saturdays, let's say I go hit a good leg day, I'm so distended the rest of the night that my friends will ask me to go out, and I'm like, I can't go out in a t-shirt and I can't fit in my pants because I'm so bloated. So I just don't go. And that's been another thing that's been hard is working my ass off for my body in the gym. And then time comes to where I can go out and wear, cute clothes and clothes to show it off. And bike, you can't because you're 9 months pregnant and look distended and you can't fit in your clothes. So that's been another big just drive and motivation into why, I'm doing this is I just remember all of those times that I said no to going out because of that. Sorry, that brings me back to the output thing. I'm lowering my training basically to keep those stress levels down. So now I'm training 4 times a week to where before I was training 5. And then also my just output, my intensity is about at 75, 80%. So I'm really just focused on maintaining, and it's so much easier to maintain mass than it is to gain. So I'm not expecting to lose too much. I'm not on any PEDs right now either. So I am all natural throughout this process. But again, like I said, as long as I can just keep my steps as low as possible, just kind of lay around and be a couch potato, as bad as that sounds. But really right now, that's the goal, is just go train to maintain. And then other than that, just stay, as steady as I can.
Definitely. And it seems like you're really committed to always doing what needs to be done to get the result that you want. And you had taken 13 months to focus on building, and you struggled with some of the challenges of not facing the gut health protocol during that time, like the social opportunities going down or feeling self-conscious about, or really, I don't know that self-conscious is the right word, maybe it is, but uncomfortable and not being able to go out as much. And then you said that it's hard because despite all your hard work and your efforts in the gym, it's not reflected in your body by the end of the day or on your body by the end of the day. So how has that affected your confidence or just the way that you see yourself as an athlete, as a coach, as a woman?
Yeah, I mean, it's been awful. And also, I don't have, I don't know if this is too detailed. I don't have like huge boobs or a huge butt. So when I bloat, like very much obvious. And I'm also fairly lean, around 15% body fat. So it's much more obvious now than it used to be, which, like I said, I think I bloat way worse now than I did before. But it plays a huge, huge role on my confidence when I go out. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone somewhere and actually bought a t-shirt, or I always have a t-shirt in my gym bag. I always wear it to the gym. I'll take it off while I'm training. It'll usually go back on before I leave the gym. It's just something that I constantly have to deal with day in and day out. And it's beyond frustrating. Like you said, especially with what I do and creating content on social media, it's like some days I can't film or anything because I'm so distended. It's just, I'm self-conscious about it. So that's just become such a big factor in my everyday life. It's constant. And I know my friends and family are so tired of hearing about it. But it is such a uncontrollable thing for me. And it was hard for me to say, you know what, I'm in this off season. Because 450 carbs is the last thing you want to eat with SIBO. Like that is absolutely just fueling the fire. So I said, you know what, I'm going to suck it up. I'm going to be distended for a few months and then it's all going to go away. But at the end of the day, like you said, I had a goal in mind. I wanted to grow, whether that was bloated or not. And then now I'll kind of take care of everything. So it sucks, but I'm just praying that this protocol works and I don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, definitely. That would be amazing. And I hope for that for you too, because I can tell it's really important to you and it's something you're putting a lot of effort into.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you said something earlier about having your why and a reason behind why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that's so, so important because it also goes back to, this is kind of off topic, but the reverse dieting thing and just having a why. When you're in a prep, you have your why. You know you're going to step on stage. You know you have to finish this diet. You don't want to let anyone down. You don't want to let your coach down, yourself down. And you have to get on a stage. When you're reversing, you don't have a super strong why. Your why essentially is not putting on excess body fat. But that is not a very strong why for a lot of people, especially for me, because I would tell myself, you know, well, I have to eat to grow. So this is just going to be part of the gains, which we know that's not true. But like I said, when I was in that off season, I had the mindset of I could not imagine dieting right now. I could not imagine restricting myself because I didn't really have a why. My why was not bloating, but that just wasn't a big enough why for me. But now that I'm in the protocol and I have a coach and I know, you know, these 12, 16 weeks are it's the end of it, I'm like now the world's best dieter. Like I'm not even thinking about food or anything. So it just goes to show just how much, you know, a mindset shift can really show you what you're capable of. Because never in a million years would I imagine myself being able to stick to something this strict for so long, which it's only been 2 weeks. So we'll see what I say in 10 weeks. But no, it just really goes to show how much your mindset basically controls, you know, everything you do.
That's exactly right. Like a lot of times when people work with me for food relationship, I really help them to see that you can have a healthy relationship with food while pursuing your goals, because it really comes down to intention and reason. And if we can drive home the reason you're doing what you're doing outside of physique, let's say, you're going to have a easier time following through. But you have opened up in the past about binge eating, reverse dieting, body dysmorphia. How has competing impacted the way that you see yourself and food and anything else that might come to mind attached to that?
Oh yeah, girl, that's that's a whole nother can of worms. I'll try to keep it short, but essentially, sometimes I look back and like not regret starting, but I definitely regret the way I started because I used to just love to work out. I still do, but I used to work out just because I genuinely loved to do it. It didn't matter, you know, how I looked or what I ate. I just loved training and I would do it with my friends all summer long for fun. I would eat whatever I wanted. And it was just, I was living my best life. And then now, whenever I got to college, I had always been, you know, the fit friend or just the most fit in the group, even though I don't know what my body fat percentage was at, but looking back, obviously, I was way higher than I thought at the time because now I have this whole new level of what fit is in the bodybuilding world. But I didn't even know bodybuilding existed or competing or anything like that. And so once I kind of quit volleyball and got into it, and I was like, you know what, I love training. Like, let's give ourselves a goal. People have always told me, you know, I should try it out. So I did. And ever since then, nothing has been the same. Like my relationship with my body, my relationship with food, everything is a number to me. Like when I look at something, all I see is a number attached to it. If I don't see lines in the mirror, I'm automatically fat. Like it is just a whole new, outlook on it. And that part kind of stinks because I was in such a healthy place back then, just enjoying life. And now I'm constantly stressing about what I'm eating and how I look. But that is the name of the game, and that is what bodybuilding is all about. So I hate how toxic it can become. But also, if you want to achieve the physique level or the physique that you're going after for whatever your goal may be, it is necessary. And that's something I battle with my clients, because they'll come to me and say, I want to look like XYZ. And for me to not give them macros or have them track or put them on a meal plan, it's very, very hard to attain certain physiques and still keep that healthy relationship with food. Because as soon as you start tracking and as soon as you learn the numbers that go along with the food, it just completely shifts your mindset forever. I can never forget that, basically. So I don't know. I enjoy it, and it's taken me a very, very long time to get to the place that I am now mentally with food in my body. But one thing I will say is not overthinking and not overcomplicating it has helped me so much, and just being happy with my life and not having to rely on food as, that instant dopamine source. Because in the past I would binge like crazy emotionally, anytime I was bored or sad or whatever the case may be, I would go on these crazy binges and nothing could stop me. And honestly, the only thing that's really helped is just me getting older and maturing more in the sport and realizing how unnecessary it is. And I know you can't really teach someone that, but the happier you are with your life in general, the happier, you're going to be when it comes to your relationship with food, in my opinion.
Yeah, the two can definitely be connected, especially if the eating behaviors are driven from emotion. And you said something that stood out to me, which was that you're not overcomplicating it now, but you do recognize that in order to be, successful in this sport, there is an increased fixation on the numbers, on the food, on the physique. And it's like with bodybuilding, as soon as you commit to it, you have to accept that you're entering a sport that's literally judging your physique. So naturally, then every day you're going to judge your physique because that's the goal you're trying to meet. And I was kind of hoping you might expand on what it means now to not overcomplicate things versus maybe in the beginning when you started, and like how you've reduced the complication of this to help yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just comes with actually going through the process and gaining the knowledge, because when I first started, I was on a meal plan. I knew nothing about macros. I knew nothing about food. I was basically just doing whatever my coach told me. And so I didn't know, if I was munching on peanut butter. I had no idea peanut butter has so much fat in it. And so just little things like that I've learned over time that have kind of just helped me see the big picture have made it so much easier for me, because now I don't even need to track. I still weigh my food, but I'm saying I can go out to eat or I can go on vacation, and I know I'm not going to lose muscle because I have the knowledge behind that. And some people, when you're first starting out, you have no idea. You're like, shoot, I can't work out for 3 days. Am I going to lose muscle? And that can be a very, very stressful thing, where you're traveling, and your weight spikes and you don't know why. And I know it's because just water retention, it's going to go down in a few days, but my client might not know that. So I think it's just little things like that I have been, just learned and been eye-open to throughout this process, and essentially just going through the process. it just puts my mind at ease with so many things and makes me realize, at the end of the day, you really just go train in the gym and hit your macros and let everything else, take care of itself. Because when you try to control every single variable in your life day in and day out and stress over it, it's just going to make this so toxic for you, and it's not going to be sustainable in the long run. So I think, like I said, going through the process and actually doing a prep has made me understand what goes into it, how my body responds to what's important, where my priorities should be, and just helps me really simplify everything. But like I said, at first, when you are first starting, it does seem extremely overwhelming and complicated. And it's like you have all these questions, but really at the end of the day, those questions might matter like 0.001%. And the real big, puzzle piece behind it all is just putting in the effort, following protocol, and, being consistent with everything.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Like, there's so much to be learned in this experience. And if we are open to experimenting throughout our time in this sport and like seeing what works for us and relieving a lot of that stress. I really like how you said if you try to control everything and you're stressed about it, it will become toxic. And I think that key there is like, if you're stressing about it, it's like, this should really be something that we enjoy and that adds to our life. And you've been able to find ways to use your knowledge and experience to have positive social experiences or vacations or weekends or times where you're not being so rigid. So when you're in those situations, or maybe you're going out, you can trust yourself. But I was wondering for you, like, what does balance look like in your life? Because you did mention you have to know like where your priorities are, what your priorities are. So how do you determine what's a good time to focus on certain things in your life?
Yeah, so do you mean as far as like just bodybuilding goes and how I balance that with my daily life?
That's definitely, I would love to hear about that. And also just like how you know when it's time to like pull back on rigidity and take a break, or when you kind of put on the gas more. Like right now, the gas pedal's down because you're doing this rigid gut protocol. So that makes sense. But like, when do you know when it's also time to maybe pull off and focus on other things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't been competing that long, so I guess for me, there hasn't really been any pullback. But I will say in the off season, I do enjoy myself a lot more and learn to, I mean, it's always been a lifestyle for me, so this really is nothing super new as far as like training goes. Like I trained more before I competed than I do now because I wouldn't take rest days. Um, but I think for me, just like I said, it really comes back to having the knowledge. Like I'm able to balance so well because I don't have to think about it. It's so second nature to me, and it's such a lifestyle that it easily comes to me. Like when I travel, whether I'm on prep or not, I'm probably going to bring protein bars. I'm probably going to bring my protein powder. I'm probably going to bring clothes to go work out just because I want to, not because I have these goals and I'm competing and all that. But it's such a part of my lifestyle that it does come very natural to me. Like I said, in the off season, I definitely have a hard time finding balance between sticking to. I don't think I followed macros the past like 3 months. I'm not gonna lie. I was at the point where I was just like trying to put on as much weight as possible before before this protocol, that I was like eating, I could count them in my head, like I said, but I was just very much living in the moment and eating intuitively, and I was so happy. Like I had body fat back on me and I felt confident, and I was able to go out every weekend and enjoy my friends and family. But at the same time, I still had my goal in mind. I was still nailing my workouts, so still getting my food in every single day. I've always been like very much eating clean throughout the week, and then on the weekends, that's when I would allow myself, going out Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday clean it back up, which I don't think it's a great mindset to have, to where you see the weekends as a time you get to eat whatever you want, because that's not necessarily what I'm saying, but it gave me some sort of structure. So knowing during the week you stay on your stuff, and then Friday night, if you want to have a cheat meal, go for it. Saturday, if you want to have a cheat meal, you use Friday's fuel to fuel your Saturday morning workout. Then Saturday night, you cut back on your carbs and fast, and you go enjoy yourself. Sunday, you're right back on it. And that has kind of been that's really helped me balance everything, because it really, honestly, the only time I ever want to eat bad is at night. And it's usually when I'm going out or going to social events, which typically are Fridays and Saturdays. So if you can find like a little system for yourself, just that works and helps you balance things, it makes it a lot easier. But it's definitely hard, and it's been hard with the bloating, because when I go on vacation, I want to enjoy myself, but I know if it's a 4-day vacation and I enjoy myself day 1 and 2, I'm going to be so distended for day 3 and 4. I'm not even going to want to, go to the pool or go to the beach or wear anything cute. It's just going to be a t-shirt from then on out. So that's been another big, battle I've had to deal with. But other than that, yeah, I think that the off season in general is really where I have more flexibility, and then prep, it's 100% all in.
That is a really good breakdown of like how you've been able to find what works for you. And it's challenging because you do what you need to do and you've really found like what works, but then there's that part of you that knows or gets frustrated or has to deal with the gut side of things that doesn't represent that you're doing that for yourself, or that you've established that, which would be hard. And it's reminding me too of something you shared. Oh, I don't know. I think it was a post I had read of yours, like how even when you get super lean, you sometimes feel that self-consciousness, and like it leads you to feeling like you've lost some of the features that make you feel like a woman. And I was wondering like how that's changed maybe your approach or your confidence in yourself or in dating or in general.
Oh, absolutely. That is one, it's hard to reverse and put on fat, but girl, when you see your glutes come back, your legs get thick again, like it's so much easier. I'm like, my pants aren't falling down. I like would not wear, which mind you, I was way too lean for the bikini division, my national prep. I looked like an alien. It was actually insane. But I was at like 8% when I should have been around 10, which it was fine. They just told me, not to get leaner. But I would never wear shorts. I was so self-conscious of just my body in general. I had no glutes. I had no boobs. I had no legs. Like everything. I just so depleted. I was so pale, which made it even worse for me, because I looked like I was sick in the face. So that was tough, which at that point, like I said, I was working in person as a personal trainer, and I was also never going out on the weekends. Like literally Friday through Sunday, I would not leave my couch. I had absolutely no social life in prep. I have a very hard time balancing prep with a social life, just because my energy is so low. I'm moody. Like I just want to reset. I had a busy week working with people all day, every day. So as far as like dating and all that goes, that didn't really affect me. I did not date. I had actually just gotten out of a very toxic relationship. So prep kind of shifted my mindset and allowed me to, not necessarily grieve that relationship as much and just really focus on myself, which was awesome. But now that I'm, getting into off season and putting on the weight, I just feel so much more confident and so much more just, I have, my body fat and my curves, and what curves I do have. But that's another thing that stinks about this diet is I'm losing weight, but I'm also depleted when it comes to food. So my muscles aren't filled out either. So now I'm just feeling like, great, I'm losing weight and I'm losing water and I'm losing, like my muscles are depleted. So I just look very flat. So that kind of stinks. And like I said, going into prep again, another reason I haven't wanted to prep is because I know my glutes are the first thing to go. And I'm like, until I feel like I'm going to have some sort of like solid glute definition going into my show, like I do not want to get lean. So I've kind of been avoiding it. Plus, I'm just so much happier being able to eat what I want when I want. But that is something that girls battle with, and it is very, very hard. And I will say I'm not a great example to look at because my body responds to food so well. Like the fact that I'm eating 450 carbs in the off season and staying at 15% is very abnormal. So I don't like to, use myself as an example and say, oh, you can go have a cheat meal, and if you put on 8 pounds from it, it's all going to come off in a few days, because for some people it won't. I mean, it'll stick and your body can create new fat cells during that reversing process. But for me, I've always known, if I go eat a pizza and I gain 8 pounds overnight, it'll be gone in the next 2 days when I get back on track. So I think that's another thing that's made it a lot easier for me, like I said, in reversing and just putting on body fat in general. Is I know how easily I can fluctuate if I wanted to, but I completely understand that, not all girls are like that and not everybody's built the same way. And so it is a lot harder for some people than it is for others.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that. Like everyone's so different too. And the way that our body changes or responds to things can be different. And I think it's important to recognize when we feel our best to like genuinely feel our best, not necessarily putting it against a standard or an expectation, but like really just how we feel and how like where our confidence is. And I think it's so relatable, like coming out of a show, you are so lean. Like I remember feeling that way sometimes. Like there's certain pants I wouldn't want to wear just because I was like, oh my God, my ass looks so flat. Or your face just looks sickly, like you said. And then as you're coming out of your season, like you got to stay on point with your diet because you don't want to then go too far and then hurt yourself or hurt your performance or the way that you feel. So it's that fine balance. But I think really just paying attention to what makes us feel our best can give us a lot more insight into what is best for us. And part of that too, I think it's helpful to have a coach who can bring like an external eye. So I'm curious like how your coach has worked with you to support you in not just achieving your physique goals, but also in honoring like what you personally like for yourself.
Oh yeah, no, Brandon has been amazing. Brandon's my coach with Hustl Hrdr, and throughout the prep, obviously, he was very attentive, very encouraging, but he had my reverse set up before we even got to the show, just so I had a place to go afterwards. And he would check up on me throughout the reverse. And if I needed, if I wanted more food, he would immediately tailor it, help me out, talk to me, see what I needed, see how I was mentally doing, and we would work through that. So that was a huge difference between my first prep when I had a different coach versus with him, because my first coach did not give me a reverse diet. She did not warn me of, post-show binging and post-show depression, none of that. So I remember after my figure show, I didn't hear from her, and I was sitting on my floor one day. It was 9 a.m. and I had ordered a 20-inch slices. It was like eight of them of pizza, like a New York style, one of those massive ones. And I ate like 6 of the slices that night, and then I physically could not eat anymore. So I went to bed, and I literally woke up at 9 and finished the pizza. Like that's how bad it was. And I was sitting on my floor just bawling my eyes out. Like this was in college too, because I just did not understand what was happening to me. I was like, why am I so obsessed over food? Like I would go to work and literally empty the vending machine in the break room because I couldn't stop thinking about food. And I'm like, Kayla, you've never eaten out of a vending machine once in your life. Like, what are we doing? But no one explained to me like how normal it was until I saw Olivia Gravengard post about it. And I reached out to her and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, no one has ever mentioned post-show depression to me. Thank you for posting this. Like, I appreciate it. And so now I'm such a big advocate and letting my girls know this is very normal. This is going to happen. Like, let's figure out how we can prevent it. And I think the biggest thing that's also helped me is just not restricting post-show. The more I realized I restricted, the worse my binges would be. So if I go all day long without, eating anything off plan, by the nighttime when I'd finally cave, it was just full send, to where if I would have just had the cinnamon roll for breakfast, then maybe I wouldn't have had the 3 tubs of ice cream at night. So that was also a game changer for me in this reverse, is just, somewhat staying on track, but also intuitively eating to an extent, and just keeping myself busy as well really, really helped. But no, Brandon was a great support system, and I will definitely be working with him again when my pro debut comes around, which I'm super excited for.
That is super awesome. And I really appreciate you opening up and sharing that experience, because it's the reality for so many people. And even just learning that it's okay to give yourself some freedom or flexibility, or take a different approach, or do something different, or honestly, even just let yourself feel. Because a lot of times people in prep don't let themselves feel anything. It's very much like, I'll deal with this after prep, or, oh, I'll just go to the gym, or I'll just control these things in my life. And then post show comes and it all kind of floods in. So it's awesome that you had a support system to kind of help you through that, and also help you reassociate with like what was going to be best for you. And I'm wondering now, like, what is it that helps you to determine what constitutes like a positive or productive improvement season, now that you've come out of your first, what you referred to as like your first real true improvement season?
You mean like, how do I know what improvements I've made?
Yeah, like, how do you know it was productive, and like you're glad you did it, or it went well and you're good to like end it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I can tell, I mean, just from looking at photos, being this weight, I think I got the heaviest this off season that I've been in my life, yet I've looked leaner than I ever was. So I know right there, just some major recomposition went on. I know I've put on a ton of mass just from looking at side-by-side photos, which are always so important. Even from starting, I think March, there was like a 5-pound difference in 2 of my photos I was looking at, but the physique was just completely different, a lot leaner looking, which is meaning I was putting on more mass without gaining the fat. So I don't know. I think I was hitting 3 leg days a week this off season, which I've never done, and then also only targeting my glutes. So I was not doing any quad or hamstring work, literally only glute work. So with that, I mean, shoot, something better be happening. But like I said, we won't know until I cut back down. But what I do know is I do not hold fat in my glutes. And so I was able to see the full shape all throughout off season, which was kind of crazy. So I'm just hoping that that's going to stay and everything else will shrink down. And that way it's going to look, a lot more apparent that I have some glutes. But I just have a very strong hamstring glute tie-in. My hamstrings are just, they're there and they're not going anywhere. So the bigger I can get my glutes and kind of soften them up and pull those away from the hamstrings, the better. So it's going to take time. And I know going on stage, I'll get told for probably the rest of my career to continue to grow my glutes, especially because my upper body is so overdeveloped. But that's the name of the game. You go on stage, you get your feedback, you make your improvements, and you try again. So that's what I kind of like about it too, is it gives you something to work towards. It gives you a goal, and that's been a huge help in just constantly looking forward and to what my next goal is. Has made this process a lot more sustainable and exciting as well.
Ooh, yeah, I love that. Like, keeping that future focus while also appreciating what's happening now.
Yeah,
So
no, absolutely.
part of your feedback was to grow your glutes, and that's something you've been really focusing on. And something I noticed is that you really prioritize like your recovery and your like prehab work and getting your muscles turned on before training. Is this something that sparked as a result of getting that feedback, or have you always prioritized those things throughout your journey?
Yeah, I've always been a big advocate of warming up. I like when people walk into the gym, mostly guys that I work out with, they'll be like, okay, like, let's go. And I'm like, wait, hold up.
I
Like,
can't.
there's like a, I'm like,
I
there's a whole
don't
30
get
minute warm-up.
it.
No, literally. And I've done it a few times, and every single time I do it, I pull something or I tweak something. And I'm like, y'all, I just can't. So I have like this whole ritual I go through literally every single leg day. I will walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes. I will go foam roll. I will do my whole dynamic warm up, and then I will do a whole hip mobility warm up, and then I will do my band work. And all of that takes about 35 minutes, but it makes a world of a difference and helps tremendously, because when you're hitting not even just legs 3 times a week, but glutes 3 times a week and doing the same exercise over and over and over and over, and then you sit all day for work, my body, my hips, my back, I'm done. It took me a while to get adjusted to that type of volume, and I eventually did. But if I did not take care of myself the way I do, there's absolutely no way I'd be able to continue. And there's obviously, like, if I'm not recovering and prepping myself, then growth isn't even happening. So it's kind of counterproductive in that sense. But no, I definitely prioritize that. And I'm 23. I want to continue working out for the rest of my life. And if I'm just going in there and throwing weight around, my body's not going to last me much longer feeling the way I'm feeling already.
Right. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I already feel 80, like I need to extend this a little bit longer, especially as a lifelong athlete too. Like, you played volleyball for so long, you got to a collegiate level, which I'm assuming you probably played year-round, high school, club, maybe even beach or other formats of volleyball, which puts a lot on your body over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just always, I'm not as good as the cooling down part, and that's caused me a lot of issues.
3 stretches off
Like,
good.
no, right? I'm like, I want to get out of here, but then I go sit in the car for 30 minutes, and I'm like, shoot, now my hips are tight again. Now we got to start all over. I'm going to regret this tomorrow. So I do need to get better at that part. But yeah, no, there's been a lot of wear and tear. So I'm trying to preserve what I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's really important that we do prioritize that. And you actually got your degree in exercise science, which I'm sure probably gives you a lot of insight too. No?
Well, I went to school at a weird time. The first 2 years I was at A&M Kingsville, which is South Texas by Corpus Christi. It was a D2 school. That's where I played volleyball. Then I transferred over to Texas State. But when I transferred, and Texas State has a great kinesiology program. But when I transferred, I think a semester in or 2 semesters in, COVID hit. And then I went home. And then my last semester was an internship. So really, I wasn't there that long, and I didn't get a lot of the hands-on classes that I was supposed to get. It ended up being online because of COVID. So I feel like I didn't kind of got the short end of the stick when it comes to my education. However, I will say I have learned more going through this process and doing bodybuilding myself than I have from school, hands down, like 1,000%, like more from just being self-taught. And I do have my NASM certification, but like I said, those really just cover the basics in school, taking your nutrition class, your basic, just essentially an overview of exercise science. And a lot of it none of it pertains to bodybuilding, obviously. A lot of it pertains to in-person and your everyday client. But I will say, a lot of what I know now and what I incorporate with my clients and in my training is honestly experience and self-taught. And most bodybuilding coaches will tell you a majority of what they know is self-taught, or they'll tell you to go, read a biomechanics textbook or read a physiology textbook. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm constantly looking for more tools to further my education and stay updated. And I love to learn. And I know it's very tough to figure out, what's true and what's not from all the information that's put on the internet nowadays. So I always tell my clients, just look at your source and look at, where you're getting your information from before you believe it, and preferably not from TikTok or Instagram because a lot of it's going to be BS. But I mean, it is hard. And once you learn more, you feel like you know nothing. The more you learn, the more you feel like you don't know, honestly, which is frustrating, but that's why we're here. And that's why I do what I do, to help educate my clients as much as possible based off, what I've learned, and prevent them from going through some of the things that I went through that were unnecessary getting to where I am today.
What are some of those things that stand out right away?
Just basically, like, it kind of comes back to what I was saying earlier about stressing over the small stuff. Just being so concerned as to, do I take creatine or not? Or what kind of protein is best? Or is it okay if I, do this movement over this movement? Or do I need to do 3 or 4 sets? Like, the little stuff, it matters 100%, but I try to tell my clients as much as possible, like, don't overcomplicate it. Like, you're overthinking, just go in and do the work, keep it simple, and everything else, like I said, will fall into place. Because that was my biggest thing, is just trying to overcomplicate everything. Like, I use this example a lot. Meal prepping all your food on Sunday. How often are you going to have a Sunday open to meal prep all of your food? Because in my lifetime, I think I did it once, maybe twice, and I was like, never again. Like, it's just not sustainable. So there's a very much all or nothing mentality that goes around. If people are all in or they're all out, there's no middle ground. So my big thing is, let's try to make this sustainable for you. Now, if I need you eating chicken every day, obviously you have to cook chicken. You can't just, go to the store and, well, I guess you could pick it up cooked, but I'm just saying stuff that you have to cook is usually the stuff that is not sustainable because it takes effort and we want convenience. So for me, like, cooking chicken in bulk and having a big tub of it in the fridge, and then whenever it runs out, I just make that ingredient. That's way more of a sustainable method than, okay, every Sunday I'm going to go to the store, buy all my ingredients, cook them all at once, put them into little Tupperwares, and then I'm going to be ready for the week. So really just trying to create little habits like that help my clients sustain this lifestyle rather than that all in or all out approach, if that makes sense. I kind of went on a tangent there, but
Oh no, yeah, that definitely makes sense. You feel like what?
I said I just feel like that's helped me a lot when it comes to just making this sustainable, because when you try to overcomplicate it, you're not going to stick to it. Like, I promise, you want to find things that 100% you're going to be able to stick to, and it's easy, because that's the stuff that you're going to be able to instill habits with, and you're going to be able to do that for longer periods of time.
Exactly. And that's how you build up your threshold and your ability to push or demand more of yourself. But if you just jump right in and say, I'm only successful if I do these things, and then they're not even things that make sense for your life, your lifestyle, or where you're at, you won't be able to develop that competency.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's so hard taking, because I want to teach my clients everything I know. Like, I want to, like, brain dump onto them so they can just see how simple it really is. But it just takes experience, and it takes you going through it in time and just learning. I can't tell you how long it took me to learn how to figure out what macros were and how to track things and how to put meals together. But now that I went through all that and I know how to do it, I'm going to be able to use that tool for the rest of my life. It's in fitness and, exercise and nutrition are never going to go away. So you might as well buckle down and go through the pain of and the tediousness of it now. And that way you have those tools, for the rest of your life. And you can always just implement them in rather than, oh, this girl gave me a meal plan. I followed it for 12 weeks. It worked, but I have no idea why I did it. I have no idea what I was doing. And now I've gained all the weight back because I don't know how to sustain it.
Which is the common story for so many people.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Now, what are your goals as a professional athlete now? Like, what do you hope to achieve competing at the pro level?
So it's funny. It's funny you say that because I always said I was going to get my pro card and be done. Like that's all I wanted. I was like, I'm never going to take steroids. I just want my pro card and I'm going to call it a day. And then look at me now. I'm got it. And now I'm like, okay, when's the pro debut? But my goal has never been to go to the Olympia. It really hasn't. And I think this might not be the best mindset to have, but I'm very much a realistic thinker. And I see the girls that are on that stage at that level. And I just don't have the body type that fits the mold. Now, I'm not saying I can't mold myself into that. And I'm not saying, it can't change. But there are certain physiques that are just genetically, built for the division. And that's something that I'm going to constantly have to battle, having a large upper body and a small lower body. It's kind of opposite of what you want and what most girls have. So I guess for me, thinking about the next 10 years, trying to fit this mold and play this dieting game just doesn't seem too appealing to me. I would so much rather, like I said, I fell in love with the training side of it. And I'd so much rather go in the gym and crank out 200 on bench or go see if I could squat 300 and just go in there and be strong and happy and eat than go having to restrict myself in my training and my diet just to kind of fit this mold of the bikini division. I love having the goal, but long term, I don't know if it's something that I'm going to take on. And it's really just going to depend on my feedback and what happens at my pro debut in my first pro season that'll determine that. Because knowing me, I'm so competitive. I'm sure I'll be like, maybe next year I'll quit. Maybe next year I'll quit. And then 10 years later, we're still doing it. So I don't know, but it's just, some people have a die-hard desire that that's what they want to do. And for me, I'm kind of just going with the flow at this point and enjoying the process.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you just know what you want to do. And I think that competitive nature can come out in so many ways, which is a beautiful thing. Because if you decided not to keep competing, you could still use that in the gym because you love the training. And I think it is interesting, though, because you've shared that you don't think it's possible to be competitive in the pro league naturally, but you did turn pro naturally. And you've taken your improvement season, you're going to go back, you're going to see how you do. But how did that experience of turning pro naturally then inform, and then the belief that you can't be competitive in the pro league naturally inform your own approach and decision about your future in the sport and your future approaches?
Yeah, absolutely. With the whole steroid thing, I always said, I'm never going to take anything, which I had no knowledge, and a lot of the reason people are hesitant is because the lack of knowledge. Like when you hear the word steroid, you think of, heart failure and dying and anger and just all these terrible things related to it. And you think of these huge, massive bodybuilders, but it's so not the case. And there's so many different types of PEDs you can take. And a lot of times they can actually be very, very beneficial to the longevity in the sport with just helping hormone regulation. So that's why I'm so thankful for my coach, because he did inform me on these things, and I do trust him with, you know, my career and my bodybuilding career. So I wasn't as hesitant when we got to that point. I genetically was able to turn pro naturally, and I do think it's very possible to take your natural physique to a higher level, but it's very, very, very rare that someone has the genetics to do so. And that's kind of what it comes down to. I'm not trying to be negative and say, oh, you're never going to make it anywhere if you don't have enhancements. You very well could if you have the genetics for it, and the people that do are very far and few. So I had the genetics to take me to the pro league, and despite, you know, training for 9 years, that helped a little bit too.
Mhm.
But now that I'm in the pro league, I kind of just looked at everything as a whole and said, okay, here's what we have. Here's the physique you've built. Now, what do we need? We need big, massive glutes. From where I'm at, I need a lot of muscle tissue on my glutes to be competitive. So we can look at the fact that I've played volleyball for 9 years. I've done 1,000,001 squat jumps and squats.
Mhm.
I've trained weightlifted for 9 years, and this is as big as my glutes have gotten. The likelihood of them just all of a sudden blowing up with me, you know, switching up my training was, I mean, possible, but genetically, I just don't have great glute genetics. So it's like, you can spend the next 5-10 years naturally trying to grow them, sure. Or we can take a small enhancement and speed that process up a little bit. You still have to put in the same amount of work. It's just now you have something that is basically just keeping you in an anabolic state and helping you put on that tissue a little bit easier. Now, is that going to be enough? I don't know, but at least it's sort of speeding up the process. So that's kind of how I looked at it. I knew, what's the point in continuing to compete if you're not trying to be competitive? And if you're going against enhanced competitors, why are you trying to do it naturally? And once I just kind of learned more about it and had better education regarding the side effects and what the chemicals are truly doing in your body, it really puts your mind at ease. So that's kind of how I made my decision. It does stink because I can no longer say I'm natural, and I can sit there all day and say, well, look at my physique when I was natural. Like, you would think I was on steroids, but it doesn't matter anymore, because now all of a sudden my physique was built based off gear. And the people that matter in my life know that that's not true. They've seen my work ethic. So at the end of the day, who cares? It doesn't matter if you get there naturally or not. The winner's the winner, no matter, regardless of, you know, what they took. So I don't know. That's really the one thing that kind of held me back, was I was so proud of what I had built naturally, and now I can no longer, you know, say that. But I will say I was accused my entire prep of being on steroids, and I wasn't.
Mhm.
So it's like, what's even the difference? Like, you're gonna get accused either way, so you might as well go the enhanced route. But at least I can say I turned pro naturally. I've got that in the bag. But like I said, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you got there. It's just the fact that you got there, you know?
Absolutely. And I think it's really awesome how you highlighted each of the experiences you've had in making that choice, and how even when you were natural, you would still have to explain yourself. And there's that grieving process too, of that identity of no longer being a natural athlete, it sounds like, for you. But you've come to terms with like what you wanted and why you wanted that, and how it's going to positively affect you and the steps that you're taking. So I think that you've made your informed choice, and I'm thinking too, it'll be really cool to see how that impacts you moving forward. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, because I didn't really get to ask you much about your journey yet to the pro stage, so I just wanted to know if you expected to go from amateur to pro in that one season.
Honestly, I really knew nothing about competing when I started. When I did my figure show, that was just a whole new world to me. And then I actually met a bikini pro at the gym like 2 weeks later, and she was like, hey, I was in college, and she was like, hey, there's an NPC show coming right down the street in 2 weeks. Let's pull you back in and have you compete in the bikini division and just see how you do versus the figure division. And mind you, I had been binge eating at this point for like 2 weeks, like I said. Actually, I think it was a month. So I was very, very puffy. So I debated, but I was like, you know what, fine. Maybe this will help get me back on track, get me to stop binge eating, and then I can kind of restart my reverse with a different mindset. So we pulled me back in. I was literally on 900 calories for those 2 weeks. It was hell. It was absolute hell. But ended up competing. There were only 2 girls in my class, so I qualified anyways. And it was during COVID, so they took the top 5 to qualify for nationals. And then after that, I just kind of went back to my normal life, working out. I had no desire to continue going because I had such a bad experience with the diet. I was like, I don't really want to do this bodybuilding thing. And then once everything kind of regulated, hunger cues regulated, I got into tracking macros and started doing that. And then January 2021, I was like, you know what? I think I want to try and do a national show. I'm already, qualified, and I knew Brandon and Kerrigan lived in Houston where I am at. So I said, I'm going to coach myself until I'm 12 weeks out, and then I'm going to hire a coach. So that's what I did. I cut down until I was 12 weeks out, and then I reached out to them and sent them pictures, and I was like, hey, like, I want to do this national show. Can you pull me in these 12 weeks? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So that's what we did. I will say my height class, I'm 5'7", so my height class isn't as competitive as the other ones. So there were never as many girls in my class, which obviously when you don't have as many competitors in there, it does make your chances do go up. But I had no idea who I was up against or anything like that. I had no idea what to expect, but Brandon was very, very confident in me the entire time. So I kind of was just going off what he was saying, and he sounded like I was going to do well. So I was like, okay, well, shoot, maybe I'm going to do well. But when I got backstage at the first national show, I had been following Erin Mahone on Instagram, and she didn't say coming to the show. So I was like, okay, like, she's not going to be here. And I knew if she was there, she'd kick my ass. So I was like, okay, she's not here, we're good. I went backstage and literally saw her, like, as soon as I got backstage, and I was like, shit. So I'm not going to lie, not to be negative, but I immediately knew, like, I was not getting first. Like, that was just out of my head. Like, her physique was ridiculous. And then when we were lining up, I saw Jackie, and I was like, crap, like, she looks really good too. So in my mind, I didn't really know how I was going to place, but those 2 were 2 that like really stuck out to me, and I knew it was going to be tough. And they ended up beating me. Erin got first, like I said, and then Jackie got second, and I got third. But at that point, I was kind of like, okay, well, if I got third at my first national show, like, it's just a matter of when one of these shows, happen. So then that's when obviously we went into USA 6 weeks later, and I ended up getting it. So it was super exciting, super surreal, but it's crazy because everyone's always like, oh my gosh, you got your pro card in 1 year, like, that's insane. And I'm like, but I didn't get my pro card in 1 year. I've been working my ass off for 9 years.
Exactly.
All I did was cut. So maybe I cut for, yes, a year, but that's not what got me to where I am right now. It's the work that I've been putting in when I was a freshman in high school, going up to the track and working out, and had no idea why I was working out. I just loved it. Who knew I was going to turn into a bikini pro one day? So it's really loving the journey that is going to get you success rather than going after the end goal, because you're just going to lose sight of the process.
I could not agree more. And to that point, then, what would be your best advice for someone who's never competed before but wants to? And then your best advice for someone on their road to pro?
Don't rush it. That's been the hardest battle I've faced becoming a coach and wanting to coach competitors is bikini and competing is now such a normalized thing on social media that if you work out, you should compete. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. Like, I think it's awesome to have that discipline and have that mindset and have a goal. But there's so much more that goes into it than just getting lean. And until you cut down, you don't truly realize the muscle mass that you do or don't have. And it's very hard when social media is constantly hyping it up to tell people, look, you need 3 to 5 years before you step on a stage if you want to be competitive. Because here's the thing, I could tell you at 18 years old, yeah, let's get on stage. But what's going to happen is they're going to tell you you need to grow. And then we're going to have to reverse back up, go through an off season, you get on stage again, you need to grow. Same thing over and over and over. So why waste time cutting and getting on stage when you can just spend that time growing, getting to where you know you're going to be competitive, and then you go for it. Now, I do think there are some people who genetically, like I said, they're just built different and they can get on stage at a young age and do very, very well. I met an 18-year-old not too long ago who turned pro, which was insane. But if you just started training, bikini and competing should not be your first goal. Your first goal should be to get you to a good body fat percentage, to build up some strength, to build up some muscle mass, to get a good relationship with food. If you've never tracked macros, you have never followed a plan, and your first step is, I want to compete, that's not the right mindset to have. And I get that you're so excited and you're watching all these girls on Instagram and you want to get into it and you want to have that goal. But the best thing you can do for yourself is just have patience. Bodybuilding is all about patience. And I hope showing people that I turned pro and I waited it'll be 2 years since I've been on stage, because I wanted to grow and I want to be competitive, because what is the point in getting up there knowing I'm going to lose, you know? So if I can tell anyone and give anyone any advice, is just stop stressing about if you're ready for stage and, you know, competing and prepping, and just go put in the work and grow and do what needs to be done, because you're only going to enjoy the success after all the work has been put in. It's prep and stage is very glorified, but it's not that exciting when you cut down and realize how much you need to grow, you know? So yeah, that would honestly just be my biggest piece of advice is, in this sport, you gotta have patience. Just give it time, listen to your coach, you know, and then when it's your time and your body is ready for that point, then, you know, go for it.
What amazing advice, and honestly so insightful. And I'm glad that you shared that, because I think it's a message that needs to be heard, especially by new competitors. And if someone had told me that when I was 18 doing this, I probably would have taken more time to just enjoy the lifestyle of growth and like have prioritized that. I almost wish the person I first reached out to for coaching would have been like, let's just grow. But then again, you know, we have to start at some point in some time and go for it. And I love how you're saying you have to have that patience and respect for the process and enjoyment. And I would love for people to be able to follow your journey and reach out to you, maybe even get coaching with you. So how can they connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram is Kayla Ashworth _. Same with my TikTok. I'm not as active on there. I try to help everyone follow my journey on Instagram, and then also YouTube. I've been doing weekly updates regarding my gut protocol. So same thing, just Kayla Ashworth. And then as far as coaching goes, I do have my website linked in my bio on Instagram and TikTok. But if you want to go directly to it, it's densitycoaching.com. And then there you can inquire, and I'll shoot you a text and we can set up a consultation. Or even if you just have questions and stuff, I'm always more than willing to answer. You can shoot me a DM. I just love, you know, helping my girls and helping show people how to gain strength. Honestly, like, weightlifting has become so much more popular nowadays than it used to be. And a lot of people went through that cardio phase where they want to get really, really skinny, and they're just now coming into weightlifting. And that's one thing that I feel like has really helped me, is I started out weightlifting as a freshman in high school rather than going through the cardio stage. But it's just so cool to see some of my clients just feel so empowered and just have the confidence to quit their job or get out of a toxic relationship or move or just do, wear a swimsuit they never thought they'd wear, buy a wedding dress they never thought they'd fit into. I think that's just the most rewarding part about all of this, is seeing how much confidence and strength and empowerment weightlifting can give you, and just exercise in general, and taking control of your body, because it's something, I always say this, but something no one can take away from you. Like, no one can take away that control of what you have, what goes into your mouth, and you exercising. It's something you can do in your basement by yourself, and then go sign up for a show one day and do it. You don't need people. You don't even need a coach if you really didn't want to. So that's the beauty of it. You can do it at any age, any point in your life. And something, like I said, health and fitness is always going to be a part of everyone's life in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So I don't know. I love it. And I am so happy I decided to take this career path and just enjoying it.
That's awesome. I love your passion, and I can tell that you really care about the people you work with and how you've expanded as a coach. It's obvious that you prioritize things outside of just results. It's like life results too. So I'm so grateful we got the chance to talk today. I'm going to put all your links in the show notes page. So you guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, just scroll down to the category section. It's alphabetized, and you won't just see all the links that were just mentioned, but you're also going to see episode timestamps, a full breakdown of the episode and topics covered, as well as a summary. So you'll always be able to refer back to it or even share it with friends, which is always appreciated. And of course, tag us as you listen or after you've listened. That goes a long way for me and the athletes. We always like hearing your feedback. And with all that being said, thank you again, Kayla, for your time. And to everyone listening, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode.